Hey guys, I thought I'd show you what I'm up to. Just planted all these trees in here. Um, yeah, I got 3 cherry trees and a Honeycrisp apple and a Bartlett pear here. And it actually had a few pears on it a little bit ago, but I pulled them off so it could concentrate on getting its roots instead of working on growing fruit. Um, It's raining right now. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm actually gonna go up here in a little bit as soon as some of these clouds blow over. There's a guy, he's actually my neighbor, who just bought a blackhawk, and so he wanted to fly. He's never flown from his place before, so this will be a first from him. And he just lives like maybe a quarter mile from my house, so pretty cool that I got a neighbor who's into the sport. I guess he said that he saw me fly over one day and said, you know what, I'm gonna go do that. So he went and had some training from Blackhawk and said they did a great job. He's really pleased with those guys down there. And yeah, so I'm gonna get up in the air here, get my gear out once this little bit of rain blows over, and we'll see you in there. Before I planted my trees, I actually set up my Mobius camera on a tripod, and I set it to take a picture every hour so that I could monitor how my shade patterns go throughout the day. Fruit trees are supposed to have at least 6 hours of sunshine, so I wanted to make sure that each one of these locations I was going to put a tree actually had it. I was able to make this photo, and you can see the hours for each individual tree, so it looks like everything will be good. Oh, we got some turkeys on the airstrip right here. Looks like they're heading off. Today the winds are about 6 miles per hour. This is more wind than I almost always fly with now. Normally I'm flying in about 3-mile-an-hour winds, so I'm expecting a really easy takeoff. I set up here facing roughly into the wind. Of course it's switching by about 30 degrees here, but it should be pretty easy. Probably the best thing here would be to do a reverse launch, but I set up as a forward, so we'll just go with it. And check my flag one last time here, and everything looks good. So I pulled up. Wing falls drastically to the right due to wind shift, so I run about 90 degrees, get underneath it. This would never work except to have a good amount of wind, so that helped a lot. Then I applied left brake to bring it more to the left here, and then we run it out and take off. Perfect takeoff, nice and easy. I'm expecting a fairly bumpy ride today because of all these big clouds. They're pretty tall, lots of thermals going on. Zip over to my neighbor here. He's laying out his wing, which is perfect. So I buzz around up here a little bit, wait for him to get things sorted out. You can see we've got a patch of nicer looking sky over here. Behind me it's pretty rough looking thunder clouds, pretty tall clouds, so we definitely don't want to go that way. Spin around here, looks like my neighbor's getting ready. He's pulling it up. He has all these trees right to his right, which is a real bummer because the torque twist from the engine is going to pull him right, but he applies left brake and he's able to skirt it out here. The winds kind of come right over those trees, so not a real easy launch. He had a little bit trouble on his first take, and this is actually his second, but for such a tough field and for as few hours as he has, I think he has like 15 flights on his rig, so he's doing very well. Yeah, he's doing great. So see that plane straight ahead? It's cruising across. That's the closest I've ever seen an aircraft. You know, we have an airport fairly close to us, but you know, it's Class E airspace. We can land at the airport. There's no tower, so you know we're sharing the airspace. So you know we try to keep our eyes peeled. But man, when those, like that was a jet that flew by, when they come through, they are really cooking hot. So you know, you definitely want to be on alert. You can't descend very quickly in these things or do much of any evasive maneuvers, so it's a matter of just planning ahead. So what I do is, if I'm going to across a runway or a flight pattern, um, try to dip down low and get within, you know, like 50 feet of the ground or something, because it's unlikely the aircraft will be flying around there. My neighbor here, doing great. We're bumping around looking for some smoother air, trying to fly away from the storm. Um, it's when you fly with another person, you definitely kind of see how dynamic the air is. A lot of times when you're flying by yourself, you don't realize how you're going up or down. But when you have someone next to you and maybe they're catching a different pocket of air, you really see how one of us will be going up and the other person will be going down and getting tossed around a little bit. Um, you know, it wasn't too bad today. I wasn't real nervous at all with the weather, but you know, it's about on the edge of what I like to fly on. I like to keep winds under 5 miles an hour when I go fly. We both have these, let's see, they're the Sena SMH-10Rs that we can talk back and forth via Bluetooth, but we actually haven't figured out. I think you just hold the middle button until they sync, but we didn't mess with that, so I just actually called them on my headset. So we're talking to each other through our cell phones, which are routed through our wireless headsets, and we both have the same headset, and that worked really good. No problems with range. You know, we can go 100 miles apart, and we can still be talking to each other crystal clear. And since we don't pay per minute on our cell phones, you know, it's just a batch, like 20 bucks a month for our cell phones. It doesn't really matter how long we talk. So, you know, we were up for an hour and a half, and you know, we were just on the phone the whole time. This is the first time I've been able to talk to someone like this while we're flying. It was pretty cool. We headed up here about 20-25 miles over here. This is my Uncle King's ranch, and this is the longest cross-country flight I've actually done. Normally I stay pretty close to home, but so I'm gonna buzz down here and see if I can see my Uncle King out here working on his tractors. But it doesn't look like I'm seeing him. Normally, to get people's attention, what I do is I run my shadow of my paraglider across the windows of their house, and normally that gets their attention and they'll come right out. But today he must be napping. It's Sunday, so he probably takes a nap on Sundays. But anyway, so then we started heading on back, and now we got a tailwind, so we're, you know, it probably took us like an hour to get here and probably 30 minutes to get back. There's a sweet little golf course here, a bunch of people out golfing, so I thought I'd dive down low and give them a little show. Didn't go right over anybody's heads because, you know, I didn't want to tick them off or anything. So I just kind of stayed to the left here, zipped on down. On future flights, I'd like to get it so that you can hear both audio between myself and my neighbor. Well, I don't quite have that synced up right now, but what I'm thinking of doing is just downloading a phone recording app, and since this is all just merely a phone call, I can record it through there. I don't have a fancy GoPro set up with the Bluetooth that syncs to the audio and all that. I think a setup like that would cost, I think it's around 800 bucks or something. So I'm not gonna go for that right now. I'll just download a free phone app and see if that works. These gravel pits are amazing. They just under their farmland. It's amazing that they just dig out just loads and loads of this gravel. It's crazy how much they can pull out of there. It's probably why gravel is so cheap. Have a truckload delivered. What is it? It's like I think it's 160, 70 bucks. I was trying to look at, you know, some of these newer neighborhoods, they don't have any of the telephone poles, which is nice. And I bet, you know, if you lived in a neighborhood like this, you could just come in here and land right on your road and then walk right into your garage. but you'd have to make sure your neighbors are cool with it, because that might get annoying for them. There's this sweet little water tower up here, and if I'd fly over it here, another playground here, scouting out to bring my kids. I'm always looking for closer playgrounds to my house. I was a little bit nervous about running out of fuel on this flight. Not really, but you know, I try to be careful, I guess. And basically, I normally always put 30 minutes extra fuel in than what I think I'll use. And you know, sometimes plans change. You know, I was expecting to go up for an hour. I wasn't planning to do a big cross-country flight on this flight, but you know, you get up and the sky looks good in one area, and you know, you change your plans. So it's always nice to have a little extra fuel. I have run out of fuel on one of my first flights, and it wasn't a big deal. I just glided down and landed, and then had to call a car to come pick me up. But definitely something that you don't want to be doing every day. So on this flight, I put enough fuel in for about 2 hours of flight, 2.5 hours of flight. If I fill my tank all the way up, I think I'll get about 3 hours, but I'll have to do a video on that. I'll have to fill my tank up and see how far I can fly. But so anyway, I think I had an extra 30 minutes, but I had my buddy swing around behind me and kind of glance at how much fuel I had left in my tank. I can also, my tank's up top, kind of right behind my head, so I can turn my head and I can actually kind of see how much fuel is in the tank, but when it gets real low, it's kind of hard to tell. So swung back here to home. I'm cruising by my pine tree here and looking at the flag, and it looks like the wind is going just how I'd expect it to do. I've been practicing motor off landings here, so just to kind of up my skills, I leave the motor running, and then I just, you know, promise not to touch the throttle, and I'm kind of judging my altitude as I'm coming here, trying to decide where to make my left hand turn, and I go ahead and do it right here. And this was probably about perfect, but it looked really, really high. So I burned off, because remember, I have a pretty strong headwind at 6 miles an hour. So I burned off a little altitude by doing a little bit of an S-turn here. And you can see I'm not getting a ton of penetration. I'm moving pretty slow. Pretty much coming right down here. Kill the motor here. And then do my little flare. And it just sets me down nice and easy, like landing on a marshmallow. It worked great. Yeah, so if I hadn't had that S-turn, I probably would have got right up next to my barn there, which would have been perfect. But I'll keep working on it here, and I think that'll be my new landing routine, where I just you know, don't touch the throttle at 500 feet. Maybe once I get a little bit better, then I'll actually kill the motor up there. But for now, it's nice having the motor. My neighbor cruised by for one last pass. It looks like he's crazy close to the trees, but he actually has a good 30 feet when I was talking to him, so just looks that way. So he's off into the sunset on his way home. Hey guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. Alright, see you guys. Bye.